Hi friends, this is CC and welcome to Hobby Hands. In this vlog, we're going to turn all of this into this. Yes friends, we're going to do a build of this, which is the Airfix 1/7 scale Brewster Buffalo, and it's a vintage classic kit. And the kit number is A02050V. It was actually tooled in 1972. It's over 50 years ago. So it's a Second World War plane. I don't do many Second World War planes, but this is an iconic aircraft. Let's see what's inside the box. Firstly, we have the instruction manual, which has the build on one page, and then the color schemes on the other two pages, one of which is the Royal Air Force version, and this is the US Navy version, and that's the version that we're going to build. Alright, let's have a look at the parts. As you can see, there's this is the wings, and it's got raised panel lines and very fine ones. There's a pilot. There's a bag of clear parts, which is looks fairly clear, but a bit of distortions. And this is the decal sheet, the very colorful decal sheet, and we're gonna do the American version. So let's get started. A very simple cockpit. So firstly, we'll paint the interior parts. This is the seat. Again, a very simple seat. Alright, let's clean up the pilot a little bit. First, just cut off the excess plastic, and then with a blade, just shave off the mold lines. Alright, let's start painting the pilot. Firstly, we'll do the skin colors. Alright, so the pilot for the US Navy appears to be using some sort of olive green type uniform with probably a yellow life vest. And I'll probably use I'll use brown for the boots and the helmet. The molding is actually not too bad. You can actually see a bit of detail. I'll paint the boots and the helmet in brown. A little bit of a close-up here. Alright, what I'm doing here is just I've painted the yellow vest already for the pilot, and now just giving the whole pilot a clear gloss varnish. Right, so the next thing we do is with the flesh colors and with the yellow vest, I put a brown panel line wash. Don't forget the hands, the back of the vest. With the rest of the uniform, I use a black panel line wash. There you go, done. Right, once the panel line wash has actually dried, we use a cotton bud and some thinner, and we clean up. Alright, so the next thing we'll do is get some white paint, and with a dry brush, do a soft brush over the figure. This will highlight all the high parts on the body, like that. Alright, once it's all painted and done, we give the whole pilot another spray, but this time with a flat varnish. And the final step is to put some blue, clear blue, on the glass area of the goggles. So what we're going to do next is, with the clear pieces, we're going to dip all the pieces into floor polish. The clear pieces are not the best because there appears to be a bit of distortion. Alright, submerge the whole piece into the clear, into the floor polish. Shake off most of the excess, and then whatever remains, blot it out on a kitchen towel, like that. Once done, we'll put it away into a box with a cover so the dust doesn't settle on it. Alright, what I'm doing here is with the observation window clear piece that sits at the bottom of the aircraft, I'm using liquid mask to mask off the clear areas. So and what I'm doing here then is painting in the frames of that observation window. Alright, so the next step the next thing I do is actually create recessed panel lines. So what I do is with the scribing tape, which will guide the scriber. So I will run the scriber a few times to create the recessed panel line. Probably do it about 3 to 5 times to make sure that the line is deep enough. So each time, the first time you run it across, it's very light, and then each time you go through, we put more and more pressure. So we follow the reference for the panel lines from the paint guide. Alright, time to assemble the larger pieces now, like the wings and the fuselage. You can actually see the scribed panel lines on the wing there. Not a difficult step, goes together quite well. Some cloth pegs to hold the wing together. Alright, and then we do the fuselage now. You can also see the scribed panel lines on the fuselage. A bit of masking tape to hold the two fuselage halves together. Right, once the glue has dried, what we do then is get some putty and try and get rid of the joint lines. I'm using thin down putty there, so it's easier it's smoother to put on. Alright, once the putty has dried, then I start sanding. I'll start with a 600 grit sanding stick. This is a smaller 600 grit sanding stick. Then we do an 800. And a 2000 grit, and each time I check with my fingers to see whether the seam lines have disappeared. And finally a 6000 grit sanding stick. Alright, the sanding's all done, so now what we're doing is assembling the wing to the fuselage. Let's make sure that it's aligned. before we cement it together. Again, quite a straightforward assembly process, nothing too challenging. And there we go. Next, what we're going to do is fit the pilot in. So we'll do a little pose outside the aircraft before we put the pilot into the cockpit. Done. Bit of a close-up. Alright friends, what I'm going to do is do a quick dry brush of the engine parts, and that's it looks like a gun sight actually. So firstly use a black base, and then after that brush on some metallic grey with the dry brush. It's a very simple and effective way of getting the engine parts to look realistic. And finally, with a bit of a silver highlight, again with another dry brush. Simple but effective. Next thing that we're doing here is just installing the gun sight. Done. This next step is actually to install or assemble the canopy pieces in it. And I'll start with that large canopy piece at the back, and I work my way forwards so it fits. So let's stick it down. Just make sure my hands are clean before I touch that clear canopy piece. You can also hold the canopy pieces down with some masking tape. So now we're going to put in the front piece. Alright, let's start to mask the canopy pieces now and get it ready for painting. What I like to do is use the edge of the masking tape to line it up against the frame, so you get a nice straight frame there. Use a toothpick or cotton bud to work your way around the masking tape, so that you can use the toothpick or the cotton bud to push out the air bubbles underneath the masking tape. Once done, get a very sharp blade and start cutting around the edges of the windows. Do this step slowly and carefully. Just sharing with you, this is what the fully masked canopy looks like now. We can start painting now. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is paint the wings, or paint the yellow colors. You might not see it here, but I've actually done some pre-shading with grey and white. I've done the pre-shading with white as well, because the yellow color is actually quite translucent. So the bottom of the wing has also got to be painted. All those areas which are in yellow have been masked off now. And I've left some exposed area, especially for that blue stripe there. So the reason I don't use the decals for those stripes, the blue stripes, is so that I want to match the same color as the blue on the cowling. So the blue is on now, and I've masked off the blue areas as well. We are actually now spraying on the final body color, which is that silver. As you can see, I've done the pre-shading there. Hopefully the pre-shading shows up. Alright friends, you can see that everything's been painted on now. So what I do is just remove all the masking. Alright, done. So this step here is actually giving the whole aircraft a gloss clear varnish. So what we do next is put in panel line wash. For the yellow area or the yellow parts of the aircraft, we use a brown panel line wash. And for everything else, we use a black panel line wash. Alright, now that the panel line wash has dried, we get a cotton bud and some thinner to clean up the splodges. So I try to do it in the direction of flight, so that if there's any streaks due to the panel line wash, it will look quite natural. There you go. Alright, now it's all clean. So the next thing we're going to do is put decals on. Just show you one or two of the decals. The decal quality is really good, so the colors are very vivid and very consistent. So use a bit of decal solution to make sure that the decal sticks nicely. And with a cotton bud, just push out the excess water from underneath the decal. And a bit of decal softener. all the decals are now on. What I'm doing is giving the aircraft now another coat of gloss clear. This is to protect the decals. I'll just share with you here the propeller and the painted and decaled propeller. It looks amazing, so colorful, and it's got the stencils. Wow. Alright friends, we are now going to do the final assembly for the US Navy Buffalo. So last few parts to put together. We will start with the landing gear. Just checking the part numbers to make sure I get it on the correct side. Let's cut out all the parts for that landing gear. Which is the landing gear cover, a strut of some sort, and we will also need one wheel and one wheel hub. The wheel goes in like that. Here I note that the gear strut might be a bit too long, and hence the wheel and the wheel hub won't fit. So I'll trim that bit down a little bit. And now it should fit much better. It sits flush against the tires. Okay, now to put it onto the aircraft. So just a bit of a dry fit first, and we'll install that little strut there. Install that bit first. Alright, both sides are done, and now we just put in the tail wheel. Be very careful with this so you don't lose it. check that it's aligned, and we'll just leave that to dry. So the next thing we want to do is to assemble the engine and the propeller and the cowling together. It's going to be a bit of an odd piece to handle. So what we need to do here is to stick on that little washer. I'm done, and just check that the prop can still turn. Alright friends, what I'm going to do now is to install the propeller. Alright, let's do the propeller first. So just put some glue there. Okay, this is going to be a bit challenging, but let's do it. So we fit the engine, or align the engine part in first, and then we work on the cowling after that. It's pretty much done, and the prop still turns, which is good. We're going to install the spinner now. This is a lot easier to install compared to the propeller and the engine before. I'm installing, next we'll install the little mast there. It's very small and fiddly, so be very careful with this one. Alright friends, the next thing we're going to do is make some stretch sprue. We want the stretch sprue to be quite fine. So just look around for the best bit there. This bit here might be good. Alright, what we're going to do is put that stretch sprue from the mast to the tail. So it looks like a cable. So what we need to do is first attach one end of that stretch sprue to the aircraft. In this case, we'll attach the tail end first. And once that glue dries, then we'll attach the stretch sprue to the mast. Just do a bit of a close-up. Okay, done. So one of the final few steps is to dry brush some white onto the aircraft. This picks out all the high areas. So just get rid of a lot of material on kitchen towel and then lightly brush the bits of white paint onto the aircraft. Right, so the next thing I want to do is to get some weathering onto the Buffalo. So we'll use some oil stains, put some on the wing, a bit on the cowling, alright, and put some, especially where the exhaust is, put some weathering there as well. So we'll put some oil stains, might put some soot as well, and just brush some onto the wheels and the landing gear cover. So on this side of the fuselage, there's a little decal that says oil. So let's put some oil stains there. There you go. I'm happy with that. So one of the things I like to do is where the decals actually cover a panel line, I like to run a blade through the decal according to the panel line. So that the panel line kind of shows up through the slit on the decal. Everything's done. So what I'm doing here is actually now giving the aircraft a flat clear varnish. So this is on the entire aircraft. And done. So one of the last few steps we're going to do is to remove the masking tape from the canopy. And you want to do this step very carefully and take your time with it. We've done a lot of work and we don't want to, well, mar the finish. We don't want to scratch that finish. See how the canopy still is quite shiny underneath the masking tape? Okay, there we go. As you can see, all the masking tape has now been removed. You can actually see the pilot now. We'll do a bit of a close-up. It gives you a very nice close-up view of the pilot. See, although the clear pieces are shiny, but as you can see it's not that smooth and it's a bit of a distortion there. Alright, that's it. There we go. This is the US Navy version of the Brewster Buffalo, and it's an Airfix vintage classic kit. This is the arrestor hook. So it's giving you, this is the front view with a very nice shot of the propeller. A view from underneath the undersurface of the aircraft, and I've forgotten to take off that masking tape on the observation window. There you go. So the observation window is also very shiny. So there you go. So wow, this is an old kit, but it still came together quite well. It's an iconic aircraft and it's a classic kit. I would think that every modeler would probably have one of these in their kitty. The fun factor is just immense on this one. The pilot was nice to paint. So the only thing that I would say the aircraft, the kit is lacking was the engraved panel lines, but that's fine. We did our own and it looks quite good. So there you go. It was an enjoyable build. Easter egg time. So friends, I had so much fun building the US Navy version of the Brewster Buffalo, so I couldn't stop at one. I had to build two of them. So as you can see, I've also built the Royal Air Force version of the Brewster Buffalo. Please check out my other vlog where I've built this kit. Well, friends, hope you've enjoyed the vlog. Please subscribe to my channel and please give me a like. Please leave me some comments and please share this vlog with your family and friends. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, this is CC signing off.